Hello everybody, it's me, Riffraff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault, and today we have a monster review. Now today's monster review is about the SPHINX, and the SPHINX is as brought to us from the original monster manual for use with basic Dungeons & Dragons and advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or what's typically called 1E, and it is a very powerful creature depending on which version you get. Now, there are 4 different SPHINXes, so this is going to take some time. And these are very powerful creatures. And we're going to start off with the most powerful one of the whole group, and that's the ANDRO SPHINX. And the ANDRO SPHINX is a large creature. It stands about 8 feet tall, and in many ways looks more typical for what I guess a person expects a SPHINX to look like. It has got the eagle-style wings and a lion's body and a man's head, and it typically attacks using its 2 claws up in front, and those attacks are for 2 to 12 each, but they're -2 in armor class. 12 hit dice and -2 armor class. Now, they don't have any special magic resistance, and they can be struck by regular weapons. All SPHINXes like to hang out in warm, temperate climes, and that's true for the ANDRO SPHINX as well. Now, they're chaotic good, which is very helpful, or can be very helpful, with a group of adventurers, and they have a exceptionally good intelligence. Their intelligence is considered exceptional. That also causes some side issues. Now, the mate for the ANDRO SPHINX, the female counterpart for it, is the GYNOSPHINX. And the GYNOSPHINX is genius level. And the ANDRO SPHINX resents the GYNOSPHINX because they're female and they're neutral and they're smarter than them. So they don't like to really hang out with them that much. But the ANDRO SPHINX can do all kinds of wild stuff. They have a long list of spells they can use, and they can cast spells as if they were a 6th level cleric. So that's pretty cool right there. Now, they don't have a bite attack, but they do have a roar attack. That's not the only creature we've covered with a roar attack, and there's a lot of similarities. The roar attack is one with the ANDRO SPHINX that gets stronger every time it's used, up to 3 times. So the first time it does it, it can reach out like 360 feet, and people, yell and scream and run in fear if they don't make a save. And the save they have to make is fear, and if they don't make the save, they run for several turns, running away in fear and panic. That's pretty effective right there, but that's not all. On the second roar, they have to save versus paralyzation. It doesn't go quite out as far. It's like 200 feet or something like that. And if you don't make the save, you fall stunned to the ground for 1 to 4 rounds or something like that. And you're paralyzed. You're stunned, unable to move. And on the second roar, if they're ogre-sized or less, they're deafened for X amount of time. Now, the third roar is the one where, unless you're ogre-sized or larger, you get knocked off your feet. You're stunned. You have to save, I think it's against dragon breath, of all things, or you're going to be laying there stunned, unable to move for an extended period of time. Pretty wicked options, and all getting stronger as they go into combat. Very, very impressive. No 2 ways about it. The ANDRO SPHINX, just on that basis alone, is incredibly powerful. When you combine this with the ability to use up to 6th level clerical spells, that's a pretty potent creature right there. And like I said, with 12 hit dice and a -2 armor class, this is definitely the strongest of the bunch. That, my friends, is the ANDRO SPHINX. We will talk about how dwarves interact with these and so forth, but after we get done with the long list that we have in front of us here. So let's move on to the next one. And that would be the Cryosphinx. Now, the Cryosphinx is a interesting looking critter. I mean, once again, the same basic idea, lion's body and eagle type wings, but this one has the head of a ram. And when it attacks you, it can either do a claw or a big headbutt, and that does like 3 to 18 points of damage. Now, they're not quite as large as an Androsphinx. They're only about 7.5 feet tall. They are neutral, and they have average intelligence. They also have less hit dice. They're only 10 hit dice. And they typically are, they only have a 0 armor class, and they typically like to actually hang out in wooded areas in warmer climates. And they're kind of big on, apparently, in the book, extorting passerbys, offering them protection or information or whatever in return for gems. They're very greedy, and they like wealth. So they're always going to try and get that. They usually won't try and attack you for it, but they have been known to do that as well. They have one weakness. The Gynosphinxes is something that makes like their ram's horns curl and uncurl or something like that. It gets them all hot to trot. And they always want to know where Gynosphinxes are, and they want to go and, hey, baby. And Gynosphinxes detest them. They're stupid and rapacious and, just horny males. Literally horny males. Okay. They're certainly not as powerful as some of the others. The fact that they're have 10 hit dice is something you can't overlook. They're low enough in armor class where they're certainly going to provide a difficult target. 0 is not great on that side. But at the same time, they're also one of the less common ones. And, it's kind of up to the DM on that side as to how they actually use this within a actual encounter. But they're not one of the ones that are as likely to be as helpful, and a lot of the players' view of sphinxes tends to be wrapped around the Androsphinx. And they're not often very familiar with these, so it could be kind of fun to use in a encounter of some kind. So that's the Cryosphinx. So on to the next one. And that, of course, is the Gynosphinx. And the Gynosphinx is also similar looking. It has the lion's body and the little eagle wings and so forth, but the upper part of the lion's body is a female torso and female head. They are genius level intelligence. They're not as much when it comes to hit dice or armor class, but they are a -1 armor class. They have 7 hit dice. So they're a little bit weaker on that side, but of course having that genius level intelligence helps. They're neutral, like the Cryosphinx. Not like the Androsphinx, which is part of where the conflict of interest is between a Gynosphinx and an Androsphinx. They don't have any, once again, they don't have any magic resistance. They don't. They can be struck by regular weapons, and not impossible to kill these things. Now, the Gynosphinx is very, very into having gems and wealth and so forth, and they tend to be very, or known to be very wise and have a lot of information, knowledge that they can share with parties. But of course, they're neutral. So if you're going to get information from them, they will bargain with you for it. And being geniuses, they don't always look for traditional wealth. If you have an extraordinarily good poem or a very difficult riddle or something like that, they could accept that potentially as payment for their services if you're looking for information or something like that. They also have the ability to use a fair number of magic spells. And those magic spells it's a set list that they use, but it includes things like, detect magic and detect good or evil, and most importantly, if you're a party that's looking for information, they have the ability to cast legend lore. And that can be a great help if you're carrying around some magic that potentially could be helpful to your party that you have yet to identify, because it's so strong that an identify spell doesn't reveal very much about it. Legend lore is the go-to spell when it comes to getting information about something, a magical item in particular. It's a very cool creature, and one that can be used with pretty much any dungeon because of its ability to be neutral and so intelligent, and it can work for or against either side. I like this particular creature, and it's one that I've used before. And not just because it's a female form. I don't want to get any comments about that. It's just a fun creature to use. Now I'm going to take one moment here to talk about the languages that they speak. They all speak their own language. Some will speak languages of another type of sphinx, like the ANDRO sphinx can speak gyro sphinx and vice versa. And some, like the ANDRO sphinx, can speak common tongue. But communication is not always straightforward with these if you follow the guidelines given in the book. That, of course, is up to your DM. My own inclination is to make it easier for intelligent creatures to interact with party members, because if they're intelligent, wouldn't they want to understand how to deal with that? I'm just saying. So, let's move on then to the last one. And the last one is the HIERACO sphinx. And this is a very interesting creature. So let's talk about the HIERACO sphinx. And it is like I said, a weird creature. I mean, it has the normal lion type body and tail and so forth, but it has the eagle wings. Hey, that's standard. And it has a bird head, more like an eagle head, more like a griffin or something. And it attacks, claw, bite, or beak. And I think the beak does 1 to 10, and the others do less. This has 9 hit dice, and it has a armor class of, I think it's like 1 or 2. It's still very low. And it is evil. This is not neutral, it's evil. And it's also low intelligence. This is not animal intelligence, but it is definitely low intelligence. These are, well, no, not to put too fine a point on it, these are stupid creatures. And the HIERACO sphinx is also a bit of a rapacious, attacking, nasty creature. It's one of these ones that, though it doesn't list humans as its favorite food, it does list humans as one of its most favorite foods. Boy, that happens a lot in this game. Humans, you beware out there, I tell you. And really, I mean, they are rapacious and evil. They hang out in hilly areas. Not very smart, but occasionally they do get used as winged steeds and mounts for evil creatures. I can't say that I've ever done that, but I have heard of that before at least. So that really is all 4 of the different sphinxes that are out there. And, do us dwarves do we get into it with these guys at all? Not often. Not to my knowledge. I certainly never have. And in asking amongst the HornhelmClan, I've heard that on a couple of adventures they'd run into them. One had run into HIERACO sphinx, and another had a interaction with their party and a Gynet sphinx during an adventure. So I guess they're out there, but they're not somebody that we would expect to see underground. Of course, in the gaming world, it's a little bit different. We went out to the dungeon masters and players in the greater Hornhelm community and asked them about it and said, hey, DMs, what about the sphinxes? Now, we know that there's 4 different ones, and we're looking for a range, and that's what they came back with. And they came back with a range of 4 to 7.5. I actually thought the top end of the range was a little bit low. I may have gone as high as 8, but it is fair in many ways because even the ANDRO sphinx, as powerful as it is not immune to magic and can be struck by regular weapons. So even with 12 hit dice, is it really that strong? It's a debate. And the players, of course, we went to them and asked them about it, and their range was a little bit different. They came back and they gave it a range of about 4 to 8. 8 being for the ANDRO SPHINX, and the HIERACO SPHINX was back down in the 4 range. That's a pretty wide range, but really these creatures do range pretty far. The ANDRO SPHINX and the GAINA SPHINX are powerful creatures, and they have a fair amount of magic of one kind or another at their disposal. That's not so true with the other two. So it gives you a pretty wide range when you look at these, and can't really argue with it. Sphinxes are fun, and using the strongest ones, the GAINA SPHINX in particular is one that I really enjoy. The fact that they're genius and intellect, and they're interested in things like prose and riddles, things that I like using in dungeons. That makes it a lot more fun to set up an encounter with them, and can make it very potentially rewarding for your party. So that, my friends, are the Sphinxes, all 4 of them. And we hope you found this interesting, educational, entertaining, all that kind of good stuff. If you did, please be so kind as to leave us a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't. Drop us a comment. Share with your friends. But most of all, come back and see us again real soon. We thank you so very much for your kind support. Take care, everyone. And remember, dwarves rocked!